Hi, I'm Josh. I'm 17.
Hi, I'm Kesar. I'm 16.
And I am Rachel. I am 18.
Hello everyone, I'm Saray. I'm 17. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about religion, and I'm super excited to have this conversation with some of my friends. I am a I have grown up a Christian and I currently am a Christian, and I go to the Church of Christ. I used to be Baptist, but my parents made the change to Church of Christ, so then I also made that change. I also believe in some spiritual things as well.
I am a Catholic. I've been Catholic my whole life. My personal beliefs, it's more broad than just one specific, I would say, because I am like not just everything that Catholic says I agree with mostly, but mostly I do, but there's things that would go in a broad term of Christianity as a whole.
Okay, so I guess I'm next then. I am Muslim. Specifically, I'm Sunni Muslim. My personal beliefs, I think, are mostly just shaped around how society is operated today because I think up until I started really middle school, my beliefs were pretty much standard with my religion, honestly, just because I grew up in a pretty I guess starting off, we weren't that serious. And then I started attending Sunday school and then the mosque and the prayer hall and all that stuff. And so I just started becoming more serious. And then as soon as I started really middle school and high school, I started getting more changed by society, if that makes sense. I was more open to different viewpoints and opinions because that's whenever I was introduced to a lot of things. So some of my beliefs, I guess, kind of deviated from Islam and more towards society, but I still consider myself Muslim.
I was raised Christian, but I now identify as atheist or agnostic. It's kind of a long story how it all happened, but yeah, that's just kind of my general belief. I don't believe in anything, but I also believe some things. I don't know. It's weird. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's definitely, I can relate because I've grown up Christian my entire life. So kind of navigating the world of religion is super hard because I remember in art history, my teacher,
Girl, that's the
the
class.
best
That's the
class ever.
class.
I don't do that well in the AP test, but the class itself is amazing. And so she tries to be really knowledgeable on other religions because, that's a part of art history, that's a part of the class because we do art from all over the place. And a lot of the places, religion is a key factor in their cultures. So their art is based off of their religion. So she was really knowledgeable about that. And I was listening to what she was saying, and a lot of it actually is super valid. I was thinking that. I was like, wow, this actually sounds interesting. I would want to learn even more about this.
Yeah.
So,
Even though I call myself an atheist, I kind of started doing that because when I first, I guess, left the church, I kind of just didn't want anything to do with it, and I wanted to be punk rock and be I'm an atheist because I knew that here in East Texas that would be kind of oh, kind of scandalous. But yeah, I actually really enjoy theology and mythology a whole lot. And I was actually raised in a Church of Christ. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if y'all know this, but I am Church of Christ. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stay Church of Christ just because it's
Okay.
really strict. It's really strict towards the Bible. From what I have in my experience in the Church of Christ, what we learn and everything is based strictly off the Bible. And it's in my Sunday school classes, we learn specifically the New Testament. So everything that we learn comes from the New Testament. So we do acknowledge the Old Testament, but everything that we learn specifically comes from the New Testament. So that's my piece on that. Um, so my question to you guys is, what is a stereotype about your religion or belief system, and I want you to debunk that stereotype. So tell us what it is and tell us why it is not true.
Okay, I guess I could go.
Okay.
So I think a big thing that is brought up, especially in Islam, is that on the topic of women, I think, especially because all women, I feel like even I, as a girl, I felt pressured at one point to even wear a headscarf. And then that there was like this whole stereotype of that women are oppressed under Islam. However, that isn't exactly the case. At its time, Islam was pretty liberal compared to the other religions at the time. They really respected women, and many of the restrictions placed on us, they were meant to help us. However, now many of them don't apply, and I think that a lot of stereotypes surrounding the hijab, it's like women are required to wear it or whatever. However, not all Muslim women do. It's more of a reflection of your connection with Allah or with God. And so I personally did feel pressured to wear one and also not to wear one at the same time, both by like society, and it's like pressured me not to wear one. However, like fellow Muslims and stuff at the mosque, they would like, I guess, give me the stink eye, if that makes sense. And then some people feel like I'm not knowledgeable in my religion at all. It's like, you don't wear it. Like, it's not really a reflection of how knowledgeable you are in your religion. It's more or less how connected you feel, and it's just a personal connection. So it's just a choice. And that's really what Islam gives to women. It's just the choice to do things that they want. And so, yeah.
Was there like a time in like here where you did wear it and then like decided not to? Like, was there like ever a change, or have you never worn it?
So basically I moved to East Texas, specifically Tyler, whenever I was in 4th grade. However, before that, I used to live in Denton, Texas, and over there, I feel like it was pretty chilled. And so I was actually considering wearing one like in 4th or 5th grade over there, and then but then like at the same time, I also like saw the news, and so I kind of felt scared, so I just didn't. So I've never really worn one, and whenever I moved to East Texas, that fear kind of like exacerbated, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
I didn't even know, like whenever I was in 4th or 5th grade, people didn't place that much emphasis on like race or differing beliefs. And then whenever we moved here, I was pretty shocked to see some of my like fellow classmates too. Like, I didn't know what the word racist was until I moved here.
No. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, I'm just curious because I have a friend who's also Muslim, and she wore a hijab for a really long time, but then when she was in middle school, she decided to stop because it was just like people would tease her for it, and yeah, she'd get a lot of hate and unnecessary stuff from it. So yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. That sucks.
It was quite a shocker, honestly. But yeah, I've never worn one.
But has
Yeah.
that changed for you? Like, do you feel like now people are more accepting towards it, or do you still feel like there's kind of a stigma around?
So at one point, especially whenever I was over here, I felt more comfortable, so I kind of wanted to, and then the whole like recent stuff happening at school, it really made me even more afraid, honestly, because I feel like some of the events, especially at a school in East Texas, it really kind of shows where like what people truly believe, if that makes sense, and how how accepting people don't make themselves out to be, honestly. And so it's still kind of scary, honestly. I'm thinking, honestly, of probably putting it on whenever I'm in a bigger city or whenever I'm like in college, just because I don't feel that safe
You
here.
feel like you'll be more accepted whenever you go those places.
Yeah. So, honestly, I don't think there are that many like super negative stereotypes about people who are like atheists or agnostic. Here in East Texas, though, people will be like, "Oh, like you worship Satan," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! That's not it at all. I don't even think Satan is real. It's so weird." But yeah, there's that I really don't enjoy. That I know that a lot of people think that atheists hate religion or that people become atheists after a negative experience with religion. And although that's true for a lot of people, like it took me going to a church that was pretty like bad for my mental health and like self-esteem to like get out of it and kind of like reject that. But yeah, some people just like don't connect with any type of religion. Or for me, like when I was attending church, even though I was like a self-proclaimed Christian and all those things, I didn't really 100% believe what I was doing. I was just kind of like, oh, well, I have to have faith and keep doing this. So yeah, it's not always out of like a hatred or spite. Sometimes you just gotta see there's something else out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of relate to that a lot because I feel like in the past I kind of withdrew a little bit from religion. I don't know how to describe it. It was really hard. It was really hard and really long process. And
Mm-hmm.
last year I came back to it. I'm not sure. There was no like reason why I came back to it, but I think that I was kind of going through a time and I was like started praying more and I was like, okay, well, I need like so then I got baptized. So that's a whole nother story for a whole different time. So that all happened, but I can definitely relate to that just feeling super confused in your faith because I feel like that is something that a lot of people go through and it caused me to get closer because I know some people it can cause them to not. What's the opposite? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it can be
Like another thing that I would want to clarify with that is that like it's not always a confusion thing. Like I remember in church hearing a lot of the time like people who don't believe in God are like lost or they are like in some type of spiritual starvation, and like that's not always how it is. Like after I left the church and like started, you know, just like investing more time like in what I thought and what I was thinking of the world, that's when I started feeling like more sure of myself than I ever did in church. So yeah, I think that's another, like I'm not trying to say that like it's that way for everyone, but I think a lot of especially religious people will perceive being agnostic or atheist as like just being confused.
I just want to add on. I just want to say that everybody usually, whenever their parents are, they usually just grow up in that. But once you get older, like you said, that's when you start making your own choice, and you shouldn't feel forced to be in it if you don't, with your own choice, feel like you should be in it. So
yeah.
it's your
And
own choice.
I think that's something that's super hard is that because we live in a place that has such a Christian presence, it's so hard to actually see what else is out there because all you are around, like when you go to school, whenever you're at home, like for me, whenever I'm at home, all I am around is other Christians. So it's really hard for me to talk to other people and understand what else is out there because all I can do is like research online. So that is
Mhm.
another thing, like what Josh was saying, that's so hard, and it really is. But yeah. Okay. So the next thing is something that's kind of like the last question, but what is something that you wish people knew about your religion or belief system? It kind of is like the last one, but a little different. If you have something that you'd like to say that's different, you can.
Okay, so I think that I remember I was sitting in the cafeteria in 8th grade. This one kid, he basically pulled out his phone and he started reading verses from the Quran that like are like slay those who like slay the idolaters or something, and then you'll be like martyrs or whatever. And he's like, those are verses from the Quran and stuff. And so a lot of and he's like, this is like what terrorists like justify their actions for and all that. And that's like literally what this kid in 8th grade said. And like ironically I was at the table. But the thing was, I personally wasn't like very open about my religion, he probably didn't even know that I was Muslim, obviously, but I just recently became like more open about it. Anyway, so just that, just the fact that this 8th grade kid, like, literally was able to pull something out from his phone and spreading misinformation. Yes, there is a verse like that in the Quran, but he really took it out of context. And I feel like that's a huge problem with Islam specifically, especially because it was put in the spotlight, especially like during like all these like, I guess, terrorist regimes in like the Middle East and stuff. It really like put Islam in the spotlight because people tend to draw connections with, oh, this is a majority Muslim country, this is what the terrorists tied their actions to. And so I personally just want people to know that the verses that they pull from the Quran that sound like they're promoting violence and terroristic acts or whatever, they really pulled it out of context.
I'll just say one thing that's a difference about Catholic and the Christian religions. I think the main difference is that we kind of pray towards like Mother Mary and other saints, and I don't think the other Christian religions do. I guess we believe that they should get more recognition because Mother Mary was such a pure woman to be enough to be chosen by God to birth his son. And I feel like that's a wonderful thing to think about.
Do you get a lot of people like saying that Catholicism isn't Christianity? Because I've heard that like 1,000 times, and it sounds like how is that for a person who's like actually Catholic? Because like when I hear that, I'm like, that's ridiculous. It is like the OG. I don't know. How do
I
you
guess
feel about
like if you think about it in the past history, like a long time ago, like I wouldn't agree with the things they did back then. Like I would look in, like they did, yeah, some pretty bad things, but I think overall it just changed. So I don't know. I haven't personally had anyone tell me that it's not a Christian religion, but
I'm glad, but yeah, I have heard some people say some bad stuff about Catholicism. I think it's actually pretty cool, but yeah. Yeah. And Kesar, I think that like people reading out those verses are like so awful, like because I feel like that's something that like Christian people like would do, because like I've heard that, or at least here, that's what they do. I mean, anybody can pull that kind of thing out of context, but like,
And even with our own book, if
yeah,
that happened to be Christian, we have some pretty horrid things in the Bible. And so it's kind of
yeah.
like, how could
that's what I'm
you
saying.
say
Yeah,
that?
But yeah, I think there's like a lot of really unsavory things in like any religion that you look at, especially if it's old, because like any type of ideology from any group of people is going to be flawed. And like it always irritates me so much when people are like, oh my goodness, Islamic regimes are like terrible right now. And I'm like, do you not remember like the Crusades? Like, are those like also justified? So yeah, I kind of just wish people knew more about that, or like were more open to admit that their belief system and its history has flaws. Yeah. And like
Yeah.
easy for me to say because that doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah, no, what a lot of people tend to do, I think, is just pull things out of context and make it to where it's convenient for them to support their argument with, because that happens way too often in every other religion.
Yeah. That's what
I
I
think-
wasn't sure.
Huh?
You can go.
Okay. Well, Kesar, what you were saying also reminded me a lot of A Handmaid's Tale. Y'all are going into senior year, right?
Yeah.
I'm going
Okay.
into junior year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, this book is really, really good. If you take dual credit, you'll definitely read it at the end of your year in English. But it's a really, really lovely book, and it makes this comparison between like Islamic regimes, but also Christian ones. Like basically a whole lot of the argument that Atwood makes in it is about how like it's not the religion, it's the people that are choosing these certain parts of a book to pull from. And a phrase she says in there a lot is context is all, which like I think is really, really interesting. It reminded me of what you were saying. But yeah, it's a really good book. You should definitely read it. But
so crazy because I completely agree with that. And everything also that you read is completely up to your interpretation. It's so funny because even within Christianity, there are like 10,000. You can be Baptist, Methodist, whatever. And it's because everyone has their own different interpretation of literally the same thing. That's what I just kind of think is crazy, is that it's also up to what you believe and like your interpretation of the text. So that's also something to go along with what Rachel said.
Yeah, I think that's very important, but like something that I've learned recently in like again in that English class is there's this one like form of analysis, of literary analysis called new criticism. And basically that idea says that like culture doesn't matter, time period doesn't matter, like all these things that typically we say influence a text aren't actually significant, and like whatever a text says, like it says. And like I don't 100% agree with that all the time, because I think like if you want to truly understand like what was going on and what those people were trying to do when they wrote that, then you need to understand the context. But like especially growing up in the Church of Christ, when like my church took the Bible very, very literally. And so like when they said things like don't let women speak in the church, like when Paul would write that, they'd be like, okay, that's it, women aren't gonna speak in the church. And like you can say that in that context it would have been fine because those women weren't educated or that's just the culture, but like what it says is sexist still, you know, and like not enough context can like justify that sometimes. So I think like a little bit of both of those things is a healthy.
Society changes, and religion nowadays should adapt to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We have 10 minutes left, so I'm gonna try to get these questions in super quick.
Sorry.
No, it's because my last meetings, they let me run over an hour. And this one's like, oh, we only have 40 minutes. And I know that's a rule, or not a rule, but I know that's a part of my plan, which is the free one. But, that's annoying. Okay. How do you guys feel about our school calendar being oriented around Christian holidays?
Okay, so basically, we have this Friday prayer called Juma, and it's around noon. And basically, it's like such an emphasized prayer to where like you're not doing your best as like a Muslim if you miss more than 2 or 3 in a row. And I can't go to them because it's all during school. And so obviously in that sense, I feel like it's excused just because of how everything is oriented around like the Christian calendar and like the Christian school year. And I personally, in the beginning, I thought it was unfair, but then I just gradually got like used to it because, I mean, what else could you do? Because this is obviously a majority Christian country. And so you can't really do much about it because you can't just change an entire calendar to fit like one or a few people's needs. But then also, and then I just kind of like learned to like go along with it, if that makes sense. I don't think much of it anymore. Obviously, whenever there's breaks like spring break, winter break, and summer break before Corona, obviously, like we would go and like to the mosque and do Friday prayer. And then fasting, like whenever Ramadan is during like the school year, it is especially rough because it's normally during the summertime now. And so it's okay though, because I've just like learned to like, you know, go with the flow, I guess. And then missing school for Eid, sometimes it was okay because Eid is like 1 or 2 days, honestly. But then but since like as school got more demanding, I realized that sometimes I just can't skip school for like a celebration like that. And so I end up skipping it just to go to school so that I won't miss anything important. That's kind of become like I guess, the new normal for us and like other Muslims in this area as well. And in the beginning, I did think it was unfair, but at this point, I realized that I guess it would be unsensible to try to accommodate every religion in like one calendar, I feel like.
It doesn't really affect me at all, but like, I mean, yeah, so many of these questions are just like, nothing matters. But yeah, it really doesn't affect me. But I do wish that they would at least make it easier for people of other religions to be in school and still be able to faithfully practice what they're doing. Because I like, even though like Kesar, you said it's really easy to like adjust to it and like it would be unsensible, I'm still just like, no, you deserve to practice and be just as educated as the rest of these kids. So that's my take.
Me too. That's what I think, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm not sure you can change the entire system, but I think that you have to adjust for something that is out of your control a little. Like that's kind of crazy, but also it doesn't. And I think that's something that I think it's good that you bring that up, because a lot of times we don't care because it doesn't affect us. Like me, I was kind of had this attitude a while ago before I wrote these questions. And I was thinking about that question about the school calendar being oriented around Christian holidays. It was something I was like, well, I get out for Christmas and Easter. We have, even though it's technically not Easter because you're not allowed to do that in school.
Call it Easter. We know what it is.
Yeah, okay. But, yeah, so I think it's cool that you bring that up, because there are other people, and not even in that type of way. There are several other people who have to kind of adapt to school. But I wonder, like, can you get special absences? Is that
They give excuse absences, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
I hope they do.
Yeah, they do, but I just still think it sucks that the system is so rigid that it makes it more difficult for those kids to function, just because like it didn't even consider that was a thing for a long time, you know?
And even like, don't you guys have to, because I remember one of my friends told me that like, during lunch, or like she has to leave class because she has to pray. I'm not sure if this is like you too, but I'm asking, like, because she has to pray like around that time. Is that kind of how it is for you, or no?
So basically, either if you miss, like, obviously there's a prayer at like whenever a little before the sun rises, at noontime, in the afternoon, before that, and then before you go to bed. Like there's 5 prayers a day, and you can make them up if you miss it. So that's just what I end up doing. Praying on time is obviously like preferable. Like props to your friend. Pretty devoted. I don't think that I myself am like as devoted, obviously. So I just make it up when I get home, honestly.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I was like, that's another thing. Like, if you want to pray, like, how do you even lay like anyways? Okay. I'm trying to get this real quick. Do you feel like your religion/belief system is correctly taught or represented at school?
No.
But no. Okay, wait.
I don't think any of them are well represented or taught. Yeah.
They
But
say you can't be biased, but all the teachers are biased. You can see it.
Right.
Teaching.
Like, how do you guys feel about world history? Because I feel like that's the closest, world history or AP geography. I feel like that's the closest thing to get to learning about other religions. So, like, how do you feel those classes did?
So whenever so basically it only had like one part of a chapter on Islam, obviously, this year. So during that time, obviously, tried his best, honestly, and and so it was good. Honestly, that one chapter about Islam, it was okay. And then the environment was honestly fine. It's just, I feel like whenever we got towards, because we learned like more ancient history, like that was kind of ancient, you know? And then as we get more towards the present, like we get towards with the Ottoman Empire and then like the war on terror and stuff, I feel like that section of world history, I feel like Islam is implicitly taught to be connected with oppressive regimes and governments and stuff during that stage, especially because I do have a friend that's Iranian, And whenever we talked about the overthrowing of the U.S. intervention in the overthrowing of like the Iranian government back then, she and her mom completely disagreed with how it was portrayed in the textbook. And then whenever we talked about the overthrowing of the Ottoman Empire, I talked to some of my Turkish friends and family friends, and they just completely disagreed with how it was portrayed, especially like the leader at the time, because the textbook really portrayed him as like this ruthless, like the Red Sultan. That's like how it portrayed him as. And then whenever I talked to some like Turkish friends, they were like, we did not think of him that way, like at all. He was one of the best leaders, honestly. And given his situation, he was okay. And so I feel like whenever you learn about like early Islamic history, I feel like it's not as biased. However, whenever you get towards more the present and you get more like, I guess you get towards more like the 21st century and stuff, that's whenever I feel like it's more distorted, especially Islam.
Okay, wait, I'm going to pause everyone here because it says my time is up, but it hasn't stopped.